Hey, how's it going? My name is King Jobs, and chances are that you clicked on this video because you're looking for some tips on how to do something like this. Or maybe something like this. Well, if that's the case, then you're in the right place, because in this video, I'm going to break down 8 clips and 8 tips, one per clip, which help me to be successful when taking on a team all by myself. And with those 8 tips, hopefully you'll all be able to start taking on teams by yourself with ease. But not only that, we're also going to cover 4 bonus tips, a quick overview of my aim settings, and my controller at the end of the video. So make sure you stick around for that. And as always, if you learn anything from the video or just enjoy the 1v3s, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now with the intro out of the way, let's hop into the first tip, which is that 1v3s are much easier when you turn them into 3 1v1s. Because if you don't do that, your gameplay is going to look a lot like this, instead of the way we want it to. So since we don't want that, let's jump into clip number 1 to show you how I break down this team 2 times in a span of 2 minutes. Now we start things off here over on Fortune's Keep, and the first player on this team of 3 decides to chow me straight out of a mantle without any plates on. So I get a free knock, and then I immediately take some shots at his teammate. Now I'm gonna pause here, but as I don't know where their third teammate is at the moment, and I'm literally one shot, I have to back up and give myself some space. And this is the key to turning team fights into 1v1s. And because I back up here, I'm able to heal up a little bit, swap weapons, and then take another 1v1. But since we still have that one other player up, I have to back up again. And only after I've reloaded everything, played it up to full health, can I then go back to re-engage. And as I do so, I get a re-knock, put a little bit of damage onto the final player on this team. I then jump on top of this box, get a crack, but I don't stop to plate up because I know their other teammate is coming back soon. So I keep the pressure up. I'm able to take out the final player on this team, but not quite quick enough for a team wipe. Now what ends up happening? Well, the team eventually resets on the world loadout, and while they're doing that, I have enough time myself to grab my own loadout and get back into the action. And this is where we hit our first bonus tip, which is something that's not only going to make 1v3s easier, but just your games easier in general as well. And this tip is always having an extra loadout available to fall back on if you need it. Now here in this situation, I'm not going to go fight for the world loadout when I can just buy one myself. So I grab my loadie, and then I see this player jumping out of the helicopter, so I'm able to get a pick, which is my 4th 1v1 of this clip. I then smoke and back up a little bit, which is good because I got hit by a C4. And in the process of retreating, I put 2 plates on, and that allows me to take and win my 5th 1v1. Now from here, I struggle a little bit with getting on top of the roof. For whatever reason, it wasn't letting me mantle like it was earlier, but eventually I worked my way up, and I'm able to take my 6th and final 1v1 of this clip to take the team out for the squad wipe. So once again, taking on teams by yourself becomes so much easier when you're able to turn those team fights into 3 1-on-1 gunfights instead. Now with clip number 1 down, let's move on to clip number 2, which is one of my favorites from season 5 because this game ends in a nice little 25 kill dub. But anyway, the tip that makes this all possible is this. To take on teams by yourself, you have to position in a way that keeps the enemy in front of you. Now we start things off here with a little knock, and I almost get taken out in the process, but thankfully I'm able to survive, play it up, and repeat. Now luckily, the player I knocked is in the process of getting revived, so I'm able to get a quick double kill. Now at this point, there are only 3 players left in the lobby, but I don't know where they are. So where am I looking? Right here at this moment, over to my right, because I assume they're not going to be right on top of that duo I just took out. Now I don't see anything, but high alert saves me here. I get a ping on my left, and then shortly after, I get a ping from behind me. So since I'm not in a good spot to handle this fight right now, I push forward, trying to get an angle on the guys on the wall. Now since I don't see anything there, I move over to the truck, which then allows me to get my first kill on the remaining team. I then immediately throw a smoke in case I'm getting pushed, and am looking for information right away. I see one of the final 2 players, but I still don't know where their third and final teammate is. So I use the smoke for cover to move to a spot that they don't expect me to be at, but still keeps everything in front of me, which allows me to get a quick double kill for the 25 kill win. But before we go into the next section, let's hit our second bonus tip, which is how are we able to take 1v1s instead of 1v3s and keep enemies in front of us. And I've already kind of covered this a little bit already, but let's make it official now. You do this by making space, or in other words, putting distance in between you and the closest enemy. And as a general rule, the harder a team is stacking, or the better your opponents are, the more space you'll need to have between them and you in order to successfully take on a team by yourself. So keep that in mind as well. So now let's move on to clip and tip number 3. And now tip number 3 isn't going to come into play right away, but you'll see why it's so important here in just a second. But the tip or skill is to use utility, whether it's a field upgrade, a tactical, or a lethal, to reduce the number of directions you can either get pushed from, but at the same time, give yourself an escape route. So watch how this plays out, because this is a fun one. We start things out by taking 2 players down pretty easily, in big part due to me having arguably the best floor loot gun in the game this season. And after ducking quickly back into cover to heal up and reload, I go to secure my thirst. So I jump across the rooftops, mantle over the Guardian, and then get the re-knock and kill. Now I'm gonna pause here. What did I just do? And now a lot of you might think that sound suppression mines are useless, but I promise you that they're not, as you'll see here in just a second. So now at this point, we've gotten 2 kills already, and we're looking to take on more players. So after a quick accidental weapon swap, I had a nice little headshot, get landed on by this guy's teammate, and thanks to my awesome floor loot secondary, I'm able to knock him and then get the squad wipe on the 3rd guy. But now this is where tip number 3 comes into play, because squad wipes are cool and all, but are they that cool if you die immediately after? Because as I'm plating up, what can you see? Someone flies over onto the zip line, they hit my sound suppression mine, and because of that, I get a free knock and kill. But I don't just hit one player with that mine. As you can see, my suppression mine is still ticking. So there would have been another player right there ready to trade out his teammate if I didn't have that suppression mine there. But not only that, I have their other teammate over on the building that I just came from. So having that suppression mine there allows me to slow down one of the players on that team, plate up, reload, take out another player on that team, and stay alive. If I hadn't have done that, I would have had 3 players converging at me from different directions, and things would have not gone well from there. And this is what tip number 3 is all about. It's about planning ahead, thinking about what potential situations could arise in any scenario. Now next up is tip number 4. And now this is a tip I'm gonna say might not be for everyone, but especially in season 5, this is gonna be a valuable one, because with this season came the addition of the quartermaster suppressor, which is an absolutely broken attachment. And now whenever I'm in solo trios, both of my guns are utilizing this suppressor, because staying off the minimap when you're by yourself is incredibly important. Now, like I said, this might not be for everyone. However, if you find yourself quite often being the last player alive on your team, or maybe you're trying to hop into some solo trios or solo quads to get a little bit better or just see what it's like, I highly recommend that you run double suppressors. And now let's get into bonus tip number 3, which is related to perks. And although I'm not using these perks specifically in this clip, you'll see that in a lot of the clips throughout the video, I'm running Cold-Blooded and Ghost. Cold-Blooded frequently lets you get an easy pick on a team, and then the Ghost perk lets you finesse a bit, escape, and play your life. So that combination of double suppressors, high alert, and Ghost is really strong right now. But anyway, let's get into the clip where you'll see how important it is that I have dual suppressed weapons. Now, I know that there's players around me here. I can hear them running around below me. So once I know I'm gonna get the drop on this guy, I hop off the roof and get a free knock. But thanks to my suppressors, I'm off the minimap. I'm able to rotate around the edge of the building and get another knock for free. And this leads to the last guy on this team of 3 being completely lost. He's not even close to looking in the right direction at all. So this just goes to show how important suppressors are and how useful they could be when you're trying to take on a team by yourself. And like I mentioned earlier, it's an even stronger combination when you have the Cold-Blooded and Ghost perks equipped. All right, so now before we hop into clip number 5, hopefully you guys are enjoying the video, the team wipes, and the 7 tips we've already covered. And if you feel like those tips have been valuable enough, I just want to say that all subscriptions, likes, and comments are much appreciated. But if you aren't convinced yet that you want to subscribe, let's see if I can get you there with the next couple of tips. But either way, my main goal is that you guys are enjoying the video and learning a lot in the process. All right, so for clip number 5, once again, we're on Fondo, but this time we're in the end game. We're rocking the specialist perk and we're looking to fight. So I run up to the top of this roof, but before I get this knock here comes tip number 5, which is super simple. And that tip is patience. That's one of the most important tips or skills that I can highlight when it comes to you all successfully taking on teams by yourself. Now, right after I get the first knock here, watch what ends up happening. I don't immediately jump over to push. I don't throw a smoke or try to hit a weird like wall bounce throwing knife. I just stay pre-aimed at the doorway because I'm anticipating that one of this guy's teammates is gonna run out of that doorway or at least peek looking for me. Now, since no one peeks out the door, I reload, I take it slow. Now, I try to just get a cheeky thirst with my throwing knife here, but accidentally pick up a frag, which kind of throws me off. But I re-peek, I'm able to get the thirst, a knock, and another kill. But then I'm out. So I'm not going for that last final kill, even though they make a nice clip, right? I'm playing my life, taking my time, making sure that I have all my guns reloaded and that I'm fully plated up before I go to re-engage. So I'm being very patient here, right? And because I play patiently here, we can fast forward a little bit to where the final teammate comes back up the stairs and we're able to secure secure the squad wipe. But now I'm not gonna end the clip here because I'm gonna show you why being patient is so important. So another team approaches my building, I'm able to take one of them out, and then I camp the ladder waiting for them to come up. But what happens then? Well, I get the knock, I then get an audio cue that a revive has started. I assume that it's this guy's teammate trying to stick the revive, but it's not that at all. It's the player that I knocked self-reviving. And so when I drop down, I get taken out and end up getting sent back to the lobby. So if I had been more patient there, I would have still been alive, lived to fight another battle, but because I wasn't patient, that didn't end up happening. And that's why that's one of the most important skills you can possess when it comes to taking on teams by yourself. So now let's move on to clip number 6 and our 6th tip or skill of the video. And this one is pretty straightforward, but you should always make sure to engage from a power position, as you'll see me do in this clip right here. So we're in the early game, right off drop on Fortune's Key. We have a little bit of loot and we're looking to go and fight. But as I hit this redeploy drone and I see this guy dropping in, my first impulse or instinct is to land straight on top of this guy, but I don't. Instead, I land on top of the spire here because this is one of the best, most powerful positions on any of the Warzone maps, because there's only 2 ways to get to where I am right now, and that's via either a redeploy drone or if you're respawning back in. And because this position is so hard to get to, I don't have to get off this unless I want to. But since I've already taken out 2 players on this team and I know exactly where the final player is, I'm up for the 50-50 gunfight, which turns into an easy 3rd kill for me. All right, clip number 7 here is dedicated to one thing in particular, and that is re-engaging from different angles. So first things first, we start off by getting a knock on one of these 3 players. But if I stay where I'm at, I'm done for. So I back up, replate in the process, challenge from a different and closer position, but I don't push down the hall. I jump out of the window, which he doesn't expect, so I'm able to knock him. Now at this point, I know based on those pings on my UAV that I have to get to those stairs before the other 2 teammates do. Otherwise, I'm not gonna be able to take the trio out. So I push up and I'm able to get there just in time to get some shots on one of the 2 remaining players. I then eventually get the knock, and then it's just a matter of hunting the final guy down. And now this 3rd teammate here was out of there after both his teammates got taken out, which is a good play by him. But after we locate him, we're once again coming back to re-engaging from a different position. So I jump peek this window here in the middle, but don't do enough damage to commit to a gunfight. So I back up a bit and then I jump through the other window and I'm able to get the 3rd kill all by myself. And for the last clip of the video, or clip number 8, we've got some advice on how to use stims to take out teams by yourself. So we start things off here by engaging in a little third party, trying to get the thirst on one of these players. But before I'm able to do so, he crawls into cover. They throw a smoke down, so I have to push. Now, I try to hit a little cheeky throwing knife, but that doesn't work. And then it's from this point on that I need to find a different angle to attack. So instead, I push around the building and I run into one of the 3 players. Now, I get this kill pretty easily, but I need to reload before my next fight. 14 bullets isn't gonna let me take out 2 players. And this is where tip number 8 comes into play for stims. Stims are incredibly useful, not just to heal your health back up to full, but just to reposition and prevent yourself from taking damage. But immediately after this is where bonus tip number 4 comes into play. If you can hit a stim and door bash right before your opponent is coming through a doorway, I promise you, the only thing he's gonna see is a door swing into his face. He'll be totally confused and lost as to where you are, if you can time it like I do here. All right, so those are the 8 clips, tips, and 4 bonus tips for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed and that I've provided enough value for you to hit that subscribe button. But we're not done yet, because like I said in the intro, we've got to get into some settings, because none of these clips could be possible without good settings and decent aim. Now, since that last stim clip wasn't the best in terms of aim, here's a quick palate cleanser. All right, so now let's get into my settings and some details about my controller. So first and foremost, these are my controller settings. Nothing crazy on this first tab over here except for dead zones. Now, the first dead zone that we're gonna go over is the left stick min, which I have set at 1. Having stick drift apply to your character's movement is never an issue, and it can only help to activate that rotational aim assist easier. As for the max on my left stick, I have it set to 65 because I want my character to move the instant that I want it to. Now, as for the right stick Z zone, I have mine set to 3, but what is best for you will depend a little bit on your skill level and also how old or new your controller is. The longer and more worn down your controller is, the more stick drift you're gonna have. So definitely tinker with this minimum value a little bit to figure out what feels best for you. In general, I'd recommend somewhere in the range of like 1 to 6, and I probably wouldn't go too much higher than that, okay? But anyway, this next tab here is where we get into the good stuff. So as you guys can see, I play on 8/8 sensitivity. And in general, I recommend somewhere between 5 and 10. But if you're still really accurate on something higher than 10, that's totally fine. Stick to whatever works in that sense. But if you're playing on something lower than 5, it's going to be tough to turn around and react quickly to players running by you. You're going to get cameraed easily. You're not going to be able to shoot people out of the air, that kind of thing. Now, in terms of aim response curve type, I use dynamic because it's quite simply the best. However, I've seen a lot of people say that it really hurts your aiming skills since it's so strong, which I can confirm a little bit. I've gone back and played Apex a couple of times since the release of MW3, and I used to be good at aiming in that game, but now I'm not. So if you're someone who switches between FPS games on controller a lot, maybe linear would make that transition between games easier for you. But if you only play COD, dynamic is definitely just the best setting to use. And the last important aiming setting is my scope specific modifiers, which you can see here. I think everything I have here feels really good except for my high scope multipliers. 1.3 does feel a little fast, a little snappy, so definitely play around with those higher scope values for anything that's over 4 to 5x. You want to be able to keep your crosshairs on top of people who are parachuting in. If you're too slow in that sense, that's really not the best thing in the world, but if that leads to you hitting more shots, then that's okay. You know, that's the most important thing. Whatever you can hit shots with, that's what you should be using. As for aim assist type, I personally use Black Ops, but I do see or hear of a lot of people running default. Now, my personal recommendation is Black Ops, but use really whatever those two feels best for you. There isn't a huge difference between them. I just personally prefer Black Ops. Now, as for my controller, I have an Xbox Elite Series 2 controller, and something that can really help you in general with your aim is having those paddles on the back. Whether it's 2 paddles or whether it's 4, I personally use 4 paddles so I can jump, crouch, ping, and swap weapons without taking my thumbs off the sticks. But if you guys don't have an Elite controller or Scuff controller or whatever, and you can't justify for whatever reason going out and getting a controller with paddles on it, I highly recommend that you try learning to claw. So you're going to be hitting those buttons on the right side of your controller with your pointer finger instead of your thumb. One of the worst things you can do in an FPS is taking your thumb off that right stick. However, if gaming is a hobby for you or something that you're very passionate about, and you do have a little bit of cash burning a hole in your pocket, I highly recommend dropping the $100, $150, $200, whatever it is, for a controller with paddles on the back. It really does make a big difference in terms of your gameplay. And if you only get a controller with 2 paddles, I'd recommend binding crouch and jump to those buttons, since those are the ones that you're going to be using the most. Now, there is just one other thing that I have on my controller which helps me with my aim, and it's going to be my control freak, which I have only on my right stick. It just raises it up a little bit higher and allows for a bit more precise movement of that right thumbstick. It helps me to aim a little bit easier, just micro adjust quicker, smoother, and more accurately. But it's also made up of a material that helps my thumbs stick to the controller better. And by the way, this isn't a hashtag ad, just showing you guys what I use. But anyway, hopefully between all of those clips and the overview of my aiming settings and controller, you all have learned a lot and now are going to feel more comfortable than ever taking on teams by yourself with ease in any Warzone game. So with that, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.